I think success is being at peace, being loving yourself, and being happy with what you have. I think success is working with whatever you have and making the best of it, using all your resources to the optimum. To me, that is success.
Hi, and welcome to Indian Explorers. In this podcast, we talk about Indian success stories. I am Sabrina, and together with my co host Amit, we'll get to understand the journey of our guests and what drives them. The optimism, patience, idealism, and courage, these are their attributes that we want to bring to life in our conversations with them. So if you enjoy the show, please hit the subscribe button and share it with others. Hi,
Hi, Sabrina. How are you?
good. How are you?
Very good. Very good.
Good.
How
What's
was New
going
York?
on today? How was New York? New York was fantastic. First day was like a Taylor Swift day for Naima. You know, we went to Italian restaurant, one of Taylor's favorites, and we happened to sit at her table. Naima happened to sit in her spot. So it was
You
like a
sure they don't tell that to every customer?
I don't think so. I really don't think so. It's a small restaurant, so I'm gonna believe that, they were
Good,
honest with us.
good waitress. I hope she got her tip.
Yes, exactly. But no, New York was phenomenal. It always is. It's
Yeah.
magical during this time.
But isn't it like too crowded?
We stayed in Soho this time
Yeah.
and it wasn't like packed at all. Like just normal New York busy, but Midtown is so like Times Square area. We did
Yeah.
go see the Back to the Future show. If anyone goes to New York, go see the show. It was fantastic. Like an
Back to the Future.
immersive experience.
That's awesome.
But anyway,
Sabrina,
Midtown is crazy, crazy, crazy right now.
yeah. Today is the last episode of the year for us. It's 29th December. I'll probably come out end of Jan, but I figured we'd do a rapid fire about 2023. Are you
Okay.
game?
I'm always game for your little
Stupid
questions.
for my stupid questions. I appreciate that. All right, I wrote them down on my phone. Number one, most annoying person of 2023, and you can't say me for harassing you in the pod.
Dang it. That was it. Me too. um, okay, I have two. Donald Trump, I wish he would just go away. And your favorite, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Oh wow, that's funny.
Oh, you're shocked.
No, 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 no. That's not shocked. Yeah, he's anyway. Mine's Elon Musk. He was
Oh, you're a big fan.
yeah, I'm a big fan, but he's still the most annoying person of the year.
Okay.
You know,
Okay, fair
I
enough.
mean, let's face it, his tweets, talking bad about handicapped people and these people, and getting against, just fighting against everybody. I find some of his tweets a little bit childish for my
Okay.
liking, and when you have a fight, you always punch, above. You never punch below you, and he's at the pinnacle. So anyone he fights with or punches with is always
Yeah,
below him.
fair
So
enough. I find
that
him
was that.
annoying too.
Yeah. Most impressive company.
Most impressive company.
I'll go first. What do you think?
Go.
I have two, Sabrina. I have two.
Okay.
I think the second was Nvidia. Nvidia, given the AI boom of year we've
Okay.
had with ChatGPT,
Yeah.
their chips are pretty much used by Google, Amazon, you know, all the top companies in the world, and their stock price has gone up, I think, 3-4x in the last year, and we have to mention them. And number one for me is a company, a little Danish company that we mentioned on the pod a few months ago, Novo Nordisk, the guys
Okay.
that produce Wegovy and Ozempic.
Okay.
And I
Oh, that's
chose
a good one.
them. I chose them because apart from the great, valuation they've had, to surpass Bernie's Louis Vuitton as the most valuable European group is very impressive. And the fact that its market value is more then the entire Danish economy is even more
That's
staggering.
impressive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yours?
So, I don't know how profitable this company is. I've never looked into it, and maybe I will now. But do you ever use Canva?
Yeah, yeah. Yesterday.
I am
It's
so
great.
impressed
Yeah.
by this
Even the AI.
platform. And
Yeah, I
they've
do all my.
incorporated, yeah, they've incorporated AI. I mean, I use it for if I need to, Naima needed to create a presentation, like a PowerPoint presentation. We don't even use PowerPoint anymore. We use Canva.
I actually use it to
Um,
create a video. I put all
yeah,
the
I've
JPEGs
done the
together
same
and then,
thing.
yeah,
It's fantastic. So I'm going to go with Canva. I think they're just blowing up and people are transforming the way they create.
got it. That was my next question, was best product or service. And,
Okay. I
that's
have
what
a
I
new
thought.
one though.
Go
I
for it.
Okay, so in New York, we're at the Zara in Soho, which is one of their flagship stores, and they have a self checkout. Now we all know self checkout. I was looking for the barcode scanner, and the lady who works there comes up to me. She goes, "You don't do that. Just stick all your clothes that you're buying in this bucket." So I was
Wow. So, but
like
wait.
fold it or no? So I don't know, but you put all the clothes, like even if they were all tousled together, you put them in a bucket, and all of a sudden, a computer screen, it knows exactly which items you're buying. I mean, that's AI where I can't even. I, I was
It's
like,
like Amazon Go. It's incredible.
I asked her, I'm like, well, how does it know the items? Like, what is it scanning? And she's like, I don't know, just do it.
Yeah.
It was honestly very cool
Yeah.
and efficient.
I think mine is the product that I've spent the most free time on. It's even exceeded Twitter, and it's TikTok.
It's
Uh,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm not an Instagram guy, as you know, but TikTok. Uh, if you're bored and you want to kill an hour, I used to just do YouTube, and
Yeah.
now I find TikTok entertaining, funny, personalized. If I want to
And you
search
learn
something,
things too,
yeah,
like
sure,
Naima
mainly
learns,
stupid things.
yeah. But
Yeah,
also cool things. Like she's like, Mom, look at this craft we can make, or let's, just
yeah.
stuff like that.
I think we see different things, Sabrina. Haven't really learned anything on
I'm
TikTok.
glad she sees different things than you. But you
Yeah,
know what? It's what's fascinating about TikTok, look at the age difference, right? You're in your
yeah, all
40s,
of
she's
us.
10, and it
Sure.
entertains everyone.
Yeah, yeah. Thank God my son doesn't have a phone yet. Um, Next, let's go with standout person of the year, and you cannot say Taylor Swift
Ah,
because it's her year.
do you have one?
I do, but you're not
Go
gonna
for it.
like
You
it.
start.
Mine's Vivek Ramaswamy.
Oh boy, my most annoying person of the year.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think he's made a significant contribution and to American politics, and I think he's made a dent, and he's made a name for himself, and I think he speaks the truth.
I don't think he believes what he says, but that's for another conversation. I just had to put it out there. Okay, I think you're gonna either laugh at mine or like gag, okay? But mine is gonna be the woman, okay? Because we had, I'm gonna say Taylor Swift, we had Beyonce's tour, we had Barbie, we had the Women's World Cup and Spain won. I mean,
Only woman playing that, Sabrina.
I know, but like our team won. But what I'm saying
Okay,
is like
your
it
team
was
was
the year.
America, Sabrina. Your team was
What's that?
America. You were excited about America winning the World Cup. They were
I know, I
favorites.
really was. I really was. There's a great Netflix documentary on the US women's team. But I don't know. I don't have anyone else.
Okay,
Other than Taylor Swift, I really didn't have anyone else.
no problem. Okay, and moment of the year, positive or negative?
Could personal moment or in the world?
Let's do the world, and then we do personal.
Okay. Moment of the year. If you have one, you go ahead.
Mine was October 7th. You know, what happened in Gaza, and Israel, Palestine.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the moment of the year.
That's a good
That
one.
was, I mean, it was for me. It was like a 9/11 moment. So
For sure.
yeah,
Absolutely. Um, I'm going to say, I'm not going to say, you know, Charles becoming king. I'm going to say,
was that this
I,
year?
that was this year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Wow, I wish I would have prepared for this. I don't have one.
Okay. No problem.
It might come to me later.
And happy moment.
Happy moment. There's so many. Okay, I'm gonna do a personal one.
Yeah,
I'm
without
gonna
Taylor.
without Taylor. Actually, going to her concert was pretty awesome, but I'm going
Yeah,
to share my little niece that was born, and I saw her last night. See?
that's a good one.
Little Grace came into the world, so I'm gonna pick that one. What about
Uh,
you?
I mean, my third son was born this year,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
that was a pretty easy one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about the moment of the year that impacted the world. I mean, you picked a really impactful one.
pretty big one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, and one is Donald Trump is not on the ballot in Colorado and Maine. That's pretty impactful.
That's gonna backfire, Sabrina.
We'll
That's
see.
gonna. I think that's gonna backfire big time. I think that's more of a reason to vote for him. If I was a neutral, if I was a
You know
neutral
what?
American, that would piss me off.
Yeah, you have a
That they're
point.
using him in such a manner, and I would now definitely vote for Trump if I was undecided. Um, Sabrina, today we're going to talk about the P word with our guest.
Yeah.
Uh, I mentioned that because I know very little about the partition of India and Pakistan when the
Hmm.
British left after ruling the Indian subcontinent for like 200, 250, 300 years. I don't even know the number. So before we bring on our guest, given it's all about partition and migration, I found a table of migration, which I want to play a game with you
Okay.
because I love the way you guess. You ready?
Yes, go.
Okay, all right. I'm going to name a country, and you have to guess the share of the total population in that country, say today, 2023, which is actually foreign born, i.e., they weren't born in that country. Got it? All right.
Got it.
Let's
I'm a little
let's
nervous.
let's start with they're all tough. Let's start with the US. What percentage of people living in the US weren't actually born in the US?
Currently living, right?
Correct.
That were not born in the US. I'm going to
Rapid fire,
say,
Sabrina. Rapid fire.
okay, sorry. Let's just go 50%.
50
Yeah.
that weren't born in America.
Hmm.
Okay, the number is 13.6. Okay, okay. Let's go with Israel, since
Ooh. Israel that were not born.
yeah,
5%.
21.2%.
Okay.
All right. Let's go with Singapore.
Mm. 7%.
32%. No, a lot of people migrate to Singapore because of
I
the
didn't
expat
know. Yeah.
community. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go with Japan.
33%.
Just because the last three I went up, Japan
This
is
one
two.
goes way down.
Japan is 2%. All right. Let's go with United Arab Emirates.
Ooh.
Dubai and that whole region.
I'll go 15%.
87.9%.
You know what's funny? After I said 15, I'm like, this is going to be different because so many people are moving there.
Yeah,
Dang
absolutely.
it. I should have thought
Absolutely.
about that one.
Yeah. Let's go with China.
50%.
0.1%.
Wow.
Hmm. I think I'm going to leave it at that, Sabrina. I think we should.
Please. I'm
I
like,
think. I think we should leave it at that. Thank you for playing
that was
another
awful.
game. I think this was your worst guessing, but also it was a very difficult one. So I apologize to end the year
I
in
know.
such a
Thanks for
difficult manner.
exposing my lack of knowledge on immigration, which will be a hot topic in the US this year as election year comes up.
Absolutely. Shall
Yeah.
we bring on the guest now, Sabrina?
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
So, Amitu, today we have Saaz Agarwal. After receiving a master's degree in mathematics, she established herself as a writer and an artist. Her body of work is abundant, from biographies, translations, critical reviews, to humor columns. She is also an artist whose work includes themed painting collections and mixed media installations. In 2012, Saaz worked with her mother, the late Situ Savoor, to write Sindh, Stories from a Vanished Homeland. This book was self published, but has gone on to find home in bookshops and university libraries around the world. We are eager to learn about Saaz today and about her vast knowledge of Sindh and the partition. So, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you, Amit. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
No, it's a pleasure to have you here and to learn from you.
Hi, Saz. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Saz, let's jump right in. I want to know so many things about the partition. I want to know your thoughts on everything from Nehru to Gandhi to the Radcliffe line. Where do you want to
Yeah.
begin? I'll tell you what I know in like 10 seconds, and then you tell me where I'm wrong and what you want to get into. I read or heard that the British ruled the subcontinent where India and Pakistan and various other countries were there back in those days for like 200, 250, even 300 years. And then after the Second World War, when the finances of the British, let's say imperials run out of money, they decided to focus
Yeah.
more on their nation and rebuilding. And since that, they've had decades of violence and a lot of protests in India and Pakistan. The Pakistanis wanted their own state, Muslim led. The Indians, I think Gandhi wanted. Okay,
So
correct me.
hang on, Amit. There was no Pakistan before. There was no
Okay,
Pakistan. It was just the entire body was India. There was a movement to have a separate homeland for Muslims. And that movement was contested, and many things happened. And eventually, the British decided that, for their own reasons, they decided that they'll draw a line through India and make two countries out of India.
yeah, but
And that's when Pakistan came into being. There was no
sure,
Pakistan
but
before
but
that,
that line, the
1947.
British did it in 5 weeks,
Yeah.
in 5 weeks' time, and I
It
believe.
was done in a very short time, and the worst thing was that they did not announce the border until after independence. So, independence was celebrated from the British on the 15th of August. And it was a great thing because, getting rid of colonial rule, being your own master, that was such a big thing. It was such a wonderful thing. But then 2 days later, the line was announced. Until then, people didn't know. People who lived close to the border, they did not know whether they were living in India or they were living in Pakistan.
Why did Pakistan?
And
Sorry, why did Pakistan announce a day before? Like 14th of August is
it
their
wasn't.
independence.
Oh, you mean, yeah. So I don't know the exact reason, but it seems very likely that it was done on two different days, so that it could be celebrated by, the handing over could be done by the colonial rulers first, celebrating Pakistan independence, and then moving to India because they could not physically be in both places at the same time. And I don't think that's really such a big thing. The big thing was that uh, nobody knew where, and people who live close to the border did not know whether they were going to be in India or in Pakistan. So there was a lot of tension there, and the kind of violence that erupted, I don't think anybody was really expecting. And uh, even if it was to an extent expected, the law enforcers just didn't do anything. They didn't do enough. They didn't do, I can't say they didn't do anything because they might have tried, but the situation was so bad that they couldn't do anything. And a lot of violence took place. And, when you ask me about partition, now all of us, the two of you and me, we are from families that were affected by partition in different ways. But growing up, partition was not something we ever thought about, not in my family. I'm much older than the two of you. So probably, we were closer to partition in terms of years, chronology, than you were. But even then, nobody talked about partition. It wasn't a subject that was of concern to us. Once in a while, my mom would say, yes, we lost everything and we had to leave. And we'd be like, so what? We really didn't care. That was the way we grew up because it was not relevant. We were leading a happy life. Everybody was comfortable. We were quite well off and well settled, and we were more focused on going to school and whatever. So I remember the first time that I actually thought about it was probably, I was old already by then, must be in like late 40s or maybe even 50. And I remember doing this Facebook post in which I said, it was on Independence Day. And I mentioned that I'm thinking about my grandparents and wondering what it was like for them in 1947 when the whole country was celebrating independence and they did not know what their future was going to be. So that was my Facebook post because I was very close to my grandparents. I lived with them for 3 years when I went to college in Bombay. And I don't know where that thought came from, but I thought about it and I posted on Facebook and I got a message saying, oh, don't get into that again. Why don't you just let bygones be bygones?
By
And I
Sindhis?
realized that, no, I don't think it was people who were affected by
Got it.
partition. Their families were affected. But it doesn't matter. But, I understood what it meant. It meant that if you start talking about it, there's going to be violence again, because the kind of violence that there was at that time was that trains were crossing the border. Hindus were leaving their homes and crossing into India. Muslims were leaving their homes and crossing into Pakistan. And so many of those trains were arriving full of corpses, just blood and dead bodies. And everybody, this is actually the most enduring icon of partition, is those trains full of dead bodies. It's the most horrible
How many
thing.
died? A
And
million plus?
I don't really know. Nobody knows. Yes, more than 1 million, but nobody knows. Nobody knows that figure because how would you
How many
count?
migrated?
And
How many people migrated between the two
yeah,
countries?
uh, I can't tell you,
Millions.
Amit. I can't tell you the number. Yeah, millions. Uh, and the thing is that because that violence was so grotesque, that kind of rules the narrative, and we have to get beyond that. So we know this, that was the time when the two major communities in India, the Hindus and the Muslims, were at war with each other, and so much of hatred, so much of violence. That's right on top. It's right, something everybody can see. But when you go in a little further and you interview people who've actually been through it, which I've done, and I have actually interviewed hundreds of people, I think probably around 300. Again, I'm not good at keeping
On both
track. I
sides?
don't know exactly how many. No, mostly from India and almost all Sindhis. So most of my
I
interviews
have
were
your book
done.
here. I'm
Thank
reading
you.
your book
Thank you so
right
much.
now. And
Thank you.
of course, I mean, I'm fascinated, like you said, our generation doesn't know much about
Doesn't
it,
know.
and
Doesn't know.
so
No.
this is like providing so much knowledge and emotions too for me. So I wanted to ask you, you went from being a professor of mathematics.
Well, yeah.
How did this all start? This passion and then deciding to research and write on the
A Facebook
partition.
post.
It's very long story, Sabrina.
Oh,
Well,
okay, just
I
the gist
want,
then.
I'll say it as fast as I can. Set your timer and then just ring the bell when the time is up. But yeah, as I said, I've been around for a really long time, and I did start as a lecturer of mathematics in a Bombay college. And then for a few years, I had a baby, and then I was a single parent for a few years, and I had to do something to earn a living. And I was a writer. I'd always been a writer ever since I was a
Okay.
child. And so I started writing to earn money, because that's something you can do while you're at home, and you can just like visit the newspaper office when your kid is at school. So that's how it started. I became a writer, and then I worked for the Times of India in Mumbai. And then I wrote columns for Bombay papers. And then I moved to Pune. I continued writing columns, and I became a biographer, an oral historian. I actually now specialize in working with people to help them write their memoirs.
Right.
I've written a number of biographies, family histories, corporate histories. And at one point, I got my mum into the game, and I said, look, I do this for everybody. Why don't you tell me about your childhood in Sindh? And she
Yeah.
did. And very sporting, she would come and sit in front of me and she would talk. I was absolutely, I don't know how to describe it, because she was 13 years old when partition took place, and the extent of detail that she had retained without ever having spoken about it was
Yeah.
extraordinary. She just remembered a lot of stuff. And also because she was a smart person, she could give me the context. So I learned a lot, and I realized this is huge. It's a
Yeah.
big story. It's never been done. So I should do it. And that's when I went and interviewed other people also and put it together.
With
Yeah.
millions who possibly died during that, and then more millions who migrated, why why isn't this in the history books?
I want to tell you this one thing which I was about to say when I started telling you my personal,
Yeah.
the thing. Yeah. So what I was saying is that because I've interviewed people and I've talked to them, I can see something very clearly, which is amazing, which is most of the families that I've interviewed, including my mom's, they were helped by people of the other community. They were helped. They were supported. They were helped to escape. They were helped to hide. They were protected. And some cases, those people, their friends and their neighbors, and sometimes even strangers, went out of their way. They put their own lives at risk to do it. So I see this as a time when people might have been fighting with each other, but there was this huge, solid underlayer of people helping each other. And that's the thing which nobody really thinks about or talks about. It was the most amazing and dramatic and really important thing that I see about partition after having talked to a lot of people. So I want to give you this message. I want you to tell everybody.
Yes,
Can we go
absolutely.
back to the partition? Is it true that
Yeah.
Gandhi was against this two-state, uh, you know, UK?
Yeah, I mean, he spoke a lot about, he spoke a lot against it. He was very against it. And
He believed in a secular India
yeah, but
because a secular.
he did, but then he did, but India, even Pakistan, Jinnah said that it's going to be secular. He did intend it to be secular. I'm not sure I really want to talk about the politics of it, because it's so easy to be misinterpreted. It's
Mhm.
so easy for, it's like when I put my Facebook post and somebody said, oh, don't start that all over again, then it's like you're inviting
Yeah,
riots.
I
You're not,
let me
but you can be
add
misinterpreted.
to that. I mean, I obviously I don't want to get into the politics of it. I just want to understand.
Yeah, yeah,
I want to understand the hatred between Muslims and Hindus. Like, why can't we be like America and Canada? Like, for me, I'm a bit naive over here. I think us brown people should stick together and be one team. And I don't think we should be against the whites or the any
yeah.
other color. But I'm just trying to understand why so much
Yeah.
hatred and why. Okay, we can blame the British for the Radcliffe Line, and in 5 weeks, without even visiting India, the way he just drew the lines. But even after drawing the lines, why kill each other? Why so much hatred because of religion?
Amit, that is such a difficult question, and it's a question that's impossible to answer because even brothers fight, right? And that's what we did. We were brothers and we were fighting. That's what we did. You go anywhere in the world, like for example, if you go to a market in Greece, which is something that actually happened to us, we were just walking down the street, and my husband and I, we were on holiday Greece, and we went into a market, and then suddenly somebody's like, "Bhai sahab, idhar aaja," and we were like, "What?" You know. So we went, and there was this guy speaking to us in a language we could understand, selling olives. And then someone else, he said, "Idhar aana bhaiya." So someone else said that. And then I'm like, "Aap Hindi bol rahe ho ki Urdu bol rahe ho?" Because those two languages are almost the same. I mean, they have the same structure. Many words are different, of course, vocabulary. Many things are different. But if you're a Hindi speaker, you can understand Urdu. If you're an Urdu speaker, you can understand Hindi. And the reason I was asking is because I knew that these guys could be either Indian or Pakistani. And they were both. They were both. They were all of them. There was this like tribe of them there, and they were all from Punjab. Some were from Pakistani Punjab. Some were from Indian Punjab. And they were like brothers, you know. That's the way it should be, and that's the way it was. But something happened, and it's impossible. You asked why. You asked why. People went crazy. There's no answer to what happened. People went crazy. You know what happened to the women in Punjab? So many women were slaughtered by their own families. No, so many women were slaughtered by their own
Yeah, because they
families.
didn't want them to be raped by the other side.
Supposedly, yeah, but you know, who knew what was going to happen to them? At least I can say, as far as I know, in Sindh, the women were safe. In Sindh, that's one of the biggest differences between, since we're talking about partition and since we are mostly talking about Sindh, because that's what I know, there was less violence, much less violence. Violence is not, like, if you look at Punjab, every family has a story of horrific violence. People died, people were abducted. Wasn't like that in Sindh. It was
I was going to
different.
bring up Kashmir, but it seems like it's not.
Better
Better
not. Yeah.
not bring that up
It's
because
very
I
complicated.
mean,
We had Pakistani friends come and stay with us. They weren't our friends then. They became our friends because they came. So the Rotary Club they'd arranged this whole thing where Pakistanis were coming to my city, which is Pune. And we had this couple staying with us, and they were lovely. I mean, before they came, we were a little apprehensive. How are we supposed to behave? And it was a bit stressful. But then they came, and then we got along so well, and it was just lovely. And one day we had a visitor from the Indian Express. They wanted to interview us together, and then we started singing songs together, Hindi, movie songs and whatever. And then this guy, he's like, we'll give you Kashmir. And I'm like, for God's sake, Ashram, keep quiet. We don't want Kashmir. We just want to be friends. I'm like, no, don't say that.
You know,
So,
even here in the US, like I find so many people, and they're like, oh, that person, oh no, he's Indian. He's not Indian, he's Pakistani. Or,
yeah,
where are they from? But there's like I'm not Indian, I'm Pakistani, or I'm not Pakistani,
yeah.
Indian, it's
Sabrina, when they
like,
play cricket against each other,
It's
it's
on.
like
Yeah,
yeah, of course.
it's,
Of
it's
course.
war.
it's war.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
The first time I asked, why don't we talk about this? And the first time I've seen it like on television about anything talking about the partition, there's a show on Disney Plus. I was
Yeah,
watching
I
with
see.
my daughter who's
Yeah,
10 called Miss Marvel. And it's
yeah.
about a female superhero. She discovers she's in high school, I believe, and she discovers she has superhero powers.
Superpower.
And then it goes back in history of when the superpowers
Yeah,
developed, and it was partition. And
yeah,
I was like, "Oh my gosh." And so then I had my dad tell her more about it, but even my
yeah.
dad was, didn't give
He was
a
very
lot of
little, right?
details.
Your dad was a baby
He
when
was just
partition took
born.
place.
Yes,
Yeah,
he was just born.
47.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was born in April, so
yeah.
right before. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he didn't experience life in sin, but he
No.
definitely knew what it was to grow up in a family affected by partition.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
a family who'd lost everything, who'd lost their home, and they were in a new place where they weren't exactly wanted. They weren't. They just had to make their own way, and they
Yeah.
did. They did a great
Yes.
job. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the Sindhi story, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah,
that brings me to a question that you mentioned in the beginning of your book, and also we had questions about it. There's stereotypes about Sindhis.
So do you have that in the country where you are?
in the US or
Yeah.
for in Chile where
Where
he
you
is.
are, where you are, where you are.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, very much so. If I tell someone, I'm Cindy, they're like, "Oh, business, you're a business owner,
Yeah.
you're stingy with money, or you like your diamonds." I mean, nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. But yes,
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
there's nothing
Yeah,
wrong
but
with that,
that
but there
those
are
those
those
those are
stereotypes. The
stereotypes.
the
Those are
stingy
stereotypes.
one
Yeah.
the stingy one I hear a lot, and obviously they're
Yeah.
joking, but that is a
Yeah, but
stereotype.
that's not, yeah, it's not fair. And I had this, my Instagram post today on my Sindhi thingy was engineering results, Bombay University engineering results, 1943. They're almost all Sindhis. You have to look at it. So they were engineers. They were many who were very educated, and they actually contributed to building modern India after partition, because they moved out of Sindh and they moved to the other places. And I have a lot of stories of the work they did, working in the interiors, building earthen dams, working in the cities, building the roads, being doctors, women doctors, Sindhi women doctors were like, that's a very big thing. So they were educated as well. But the funniest story I have is when I went to Gibraltar, and this was about 10 years, no, 2013, yeah, that's 10 years ago, with my first book. And I, talked to people about how I visited Sindh as well, right? Because that this book which you're reading now, it was also published by Oxford University Press in Pakistan, and they invited us to launch it at the Karachi Literature Festival. So I actually went with my husband and two of our children, and we had the most amazing time of our lives, because as an Indian, visiting Pakistan, first of all, is like, making a trip to the moon. But also because my mom's family was from there, it was a very moving experience. Um, so when I went to Gibraltar, I was talking, and at the end of my talk, it was like, Gibraltar has a lot of Sindhis. There were 80 people in the audience, which I think is huge because, a small place like Gibraltar, 80 Sindhis. But when I finished, one of them stood up and he said, I want to share something. He said, when I was little, I thought that all Indians are Sindhi, and everybody laughed. But it wasn't that funny because all the Indians in Gibraltar were Sindhi when he was a kid. So, yeah. So, and he said, then I went to uni in the UK because, of course, Gibraltar is British territory, right? So he was at uni, and he said, for the first time, I met Indians from other parts of India, and they were like, "Oh, you're a Sindhi. If you see a Sindhi or a snake, who should you kill?" And everybody laughed. Everybody in that audience laughed because they found it really funny. I mean, they tolerant, sporting. I did this book called Sindhi Tapestry, which is a collection of essays. It was an anthology during the lockdown. It's a book that saved my life because I, reached out to people and I said, I'm doing a collection and will you contribute? And everybody said yes. It's a book about the Sindhi identity. And it's a fabulous book because I had professors writing. I had business people. I Sanjay Moinani, who connected us.
He's
Mhm.
from
He
my
wrote
family.
he wrote a lovely piece. Yeah, yeah. He wrote. So yeah, I got these 60. I wrote one of them. So I had 59. And four or five of them mentioned the Sindhi and the snake. It's a
So
thing.
it's a thing.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
wonder, did this stereotype come because,
Because it's
so
true.
Cindy's they had to leave their home, so they became protective of their
It's a
belongings.
very, very difficult question
There's
again
like a
because I have
psychology
seen
behind that, you know?
I've seen prejudice against Sindhis being written about in the 19th century by British colonials, where they're making fun of the Sindhis. And I have a lot of examples of that. But after partition, I think one of the main reasons was because India was a struggling country, and there was a lot of there wasn't enough for everybody. You had to really struggle to make your way. And all of a sudden, this new population of people comes in and settles around you. And they're smart, they're enterprising, they start doing well. You are going to resent them. And one of my uncles, who's not done his MBA at Harvard Business School, but he told me this, when the Sindhis came in and started doing business, the traditional business communities, they were trading at 50% and 60%, and they were very happy. Now the Sindhis came in and they had nothing. So they were taking 15% and 20%, and they were happy with that because they had to feed their families. So the other guys were like losing business, and they said, these are cheats. The Sindhis are the cheats. So he's like, who's a cheat? You know?
You know,
It's,
you mentioned this person in Gibraltar who said, I thought all Indians were Sindhi. I grew
yeah.
up for the most part in Miami, where all our
They
friends were
weren't in.
Sindhis, all
Oh,
Sindhis.
you okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I didn't really know either until I went to university. Same thing. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, Gujaratis, Punjabis, Malayalis. Like, and there
Yeah.
was only a few Sindhis. And I was like the
Right.
minority. So I was like, oh,
There you are.
okay.
Because
That's
they
when I
are,
started.
everyone else, all the others were busy chasing the diamonds. They weren't going to university like you.
That's funny.
What Sindhi traditions do we have? Sindhi culture, Sindhi traditions do we have prominent that you see in today's day and age, or has the culture disappeared?
Uh, I am really the wrong person to ask that question to. But anyway, since you've asked me, I don't really see, I see Sindhis who are conscious that their culture's lost. And in an effort to regain it, they perform rituals, which they think is their culture, which I don't think is their culture. Because what I see is that Sindh had a very rich philosophy and poetry, music, those were actually Sindhi culture. Still alive in Sindh, yeah, the arts, which are actually lost, and that's of course connected to the loss of the language, because to for philosophy and for poetry you need the language, right? Which we don't have. None of us have it. Sadly, even those I meet people who say, of course, I know Sindhi. Yeah, you know Sindhi, but is it your first language? Can you speak it as well as you speak your first language? Do you have a depth of thought? What kind of detail can you go to in Sindhi? So even the ones who do know Sindhi don't really know it at the level which and Sindhi is a very, very beautiful language. I don't know it myself. I can see it from the outside. I published a book called My Sindh by Shakuntala Bharwani, in which she writes about how in Sindhi there are, I don't remember how many, maybe 19 different ways to describe a cow. You know, it's not, I mean, it's not just that. There's so much of poetry, and that poetry comes from Shah Abdul Latif from the 16th century. And those thoughts are very deeply ingrained in the language to such an extent that you can see traces of it even in people who don't know the language, because those thoughts have come to them from before. And partly Sindhis are partly the reason why Sindhis have multi-faith worship. Let me ask you that.
Sure.
Do you agree with me from your families?
That we have what, multi-faith, or what's the question?
Multi-faith worship. Most Hindus, most traditional Hindu communities, they will have one deity, they'll have one form of, certain ritual, certain set of practices. Sindhis are not like that. They're very, very welcoming of a lot of different kinds of
I would
ways of
say that
worship.
the way I grew up, yes, multi-faith,
Mm.
I grew up um learning about Brahma Kumaris and Raj
Yeah,
Yoga and that spirituality, but also with my dad, we would, if there's a temple, we would go to the temple.
yeah,
So I would say, yes, I agree with that.
yeah,
I um
yeah.
I,
What about
I grew
you?
up in Spain, in the Canary Islands, and when my friends would go to Bar Vihar class or the
Yeah.
temple, I would go to the beach and kick a football. And no, and I asked my parents, I asked mom and dad, like, why don't I know Hindi? Why don't I know Sindhi?
Mhm.
Why don't we go to India on summer vacation, and get to know where you're from? They they looked at me and they were like, we never thought India would be where it is today. The superpower that it is. We thought we were leaving behind a third world country, moving to Spain,
But they
a
were.
modern
Yeah, they
country,
were.
and
They
we thought
did.
we were giving you
Yeah.
guys the future and the opportunity to be successful. And what we are seeing today in India is beautiful, but is
Different. Yeah.
unthinkable when we were
Unexpected.
growing up.
Yeah.
So for them, I might as well have learned Mandarin before learning Hindi. They just, we
Yeah. Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
look at it. They left, they saw what
Yeah.
their grandparents and their parents went through, and they always felt like, I don't know if it's a victim or a minority, but they didn't feel welcome in their own country the way they had to leave with the partition.
Yeah.
So,
Be- It's like I said to you, when they came in, they were not welcome because they were using resources which the local people felt was unfair to them.
correct.
So, but then again, in Spain, like I visited the Hindu temple in Malaga, and they have all the deities. They have, they have one section with the Hindu gods, but they have a wall with saints from various religions. And I also know people in the Canaries who will do that walk to in Terror.
Yeah.
Terror is that?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They walk barefoot.
Yeah, every year. Yeah, yeah. And so many of them just do it whenever they feel they want to connect, and they're looking for divine inspiration. They just do it. They
There's a
just like
faith,
walk.
there's a belief.
So yeah, and they're so open to different faiths. It comes from that 16th century um strong philosophy of one divine, and striving to achieve
Hmm.
it.
Are Sindhis fighting for their own space or their own land within India? Like, the way they were thrown out of, now Pakistan. Is there a movement? I haven't heard anything. I'm asking you.
But they have, yeah, they on and off. You'll hear these, wannabes doing stuff like that. There is a place in India which was started in 1950, no, earlier than that, soon after partition. Do you know Bhai Pratap? Have you heard the name Bhai Pratap? Bhai Pratap was a philanthropist. He was a Sindhwarki, like your families. He came from a Sindhwarki family. He had multinational retail chains, and after partition, he kind of went almost fully into social work and supporting people who had lost everything. He helped a lot of families. He contributed a lot. But one of the things he did, which is a really huge thing, is he got Gandhi's help to carve out a space for the Sindhis. And they went to Kutch, it's in Gujarat, and the Maharao of Kutch uh, gave them a huge piece of land. And he took it because it was completely barren, it was in the desert. But he said Kutch is closest to Sindh geographically, culturally, linguistically. And there was a little creek. He said, we'll make a port there. We need a port. We are business people. We need a port. So that was Kandla. And he started building Kandla port, and he started building this city called Gandhidham. And then various things happened, which would take too long to tell you now, but it, it came up. It didn't flourish the way he had dreamt. He died. That place is still there. There are a lot of Sindhis there. There are Sindhi educational institutes there. Kandla Port is one of the biggest ports in India today. You do see, lots of people, lots of Sindhis there. So that is one place. It didn't really become the Sindh that he had envisioned because it was too late. By then, people who had fled from their homeland had already established themselves wherever they were, and they didn't want to uproot themselves and go and live in the desert. Some families went. From those who were in the camps, many of them did go, and they, built themselves up from there. Now, on and off, you hear somebody who is politically minded saying, yes, let us go to the government and ask for this and that. But
Mhm.
why? Why? I mean, Sindhis have they've settled wherever they are. And they've done it with so much dignity. I just think that what they did is so amazing. They never complained. They never complained.
They
And
just did.
Sindhis are a very, very heterogeneous community. Just now we were talking about diamonds. Yeah, there are people who are into diamonds. There are also people who are into engineering, like I was saying.
Yeah.
There's so much of diversity in the community. But when partition took place, they behaved like one. Everybody did it. It's amazing. I'm getting gooseflesh telling you this. It happens to me when I think about how everybody left. They left with dignity. They left and they never asked for anything. They just made their own arrangements. They got on with it. They left the past behind. It's a very, again, a spiritual thing to do. You make the best of what you
You're
have
right. They don't
and
complain.
you keep trying. They never
They
complained.
don't.
They never
They don't
whined.
whine.
They never said, why didn't the government do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just got on with it. I mean, amazing. And everybody did that.
Yeah. Can
Everybody.
you?
In the families where the men were collapsing, the women took over and did it.
Yeah. So
Sorry, you
no,
were asking.
wanted to ask you, like, the impact that Sindhis have had around the world. Obviously, they've got businesses and industries worldwide. They've been very successful. Some compare them to the Jews in America. Uh, in Bombay, where I was recently from, is it? Correct me if I'm wrong. They have lots of educational institutes,
Yeah, yeah,
hospitals.
yeah.
Is
And right after, I think the educational institutions is the biggest
is it?
thing because they started them right after
Yeah,
partition. There was this bunch of refugees, and they didn't have schools and colleges to send their kids to, and education meant so much to
yeah.
them. They just set up their own. They just did set up their own, and
Can you give us the names?
now those colleges.
Like the colleges, is Jaslok and Hinduja Hospital, are
So
they Sindhis as well?
yeah, they are Sindhi hospitals. Hinduja used to be called National Hospital. That was soon after partition, and Jaslok was, I think, after that. But the educational institutes, one is Jai Hind
Jai
College,
Hind, the big one.
and yeah, that's the college that I went to. Then there was this Professor Kundanani of National College, Hyderabad, Sindh. He started National College in Bombay, and that is an amazing
Mhm.
story, which I will tell you another time because I mean it's one of my favorite stories. It is just a
Don't tease
fabulous
us.
story because
Don't
he.
tease us.
Okay, should I tell you
Yeah,
now? Do we have the
sure,
time?
sure. Why not?
Yeah.
So he was a professor in National College, Hyderabad, Sindh. And when partition took place, for several months before that, there was violence, the disruption, the schools and colleges were closed, and people were leaving. People were leaving, leaving, leaving. The college finally opened sometime in November, December, nobody came. And he was still there and he decided, now I'm going to leave, but I'm going to take my college with me. So he went to the college and he took two big trunks and he packed it with books and laboratory equipment. And I read this on the website of the National College Bombay. He worked with a peon called Dayaram. And Dayaram and Kundanani, they carried these trunks to the railway station where people were fleeing, and there was a guard there. The police were not letting people take things of value because if you were taking things of value, you were smuggling it out
Thieves.
of Pakistan.
Hmm.
Yeah, he was actually, that's what he was. It depends on which side of,
History. You want to look
how
at
you
it.
look at it. Yeah. So they asked, Dayaram says that the police asked what's in there, and he said, it's treasure. And they said, oh, and they opened it and they saw books and they were like, ha, take it. And, so he got on the train and they went off. And then eventually they crossed the border into Rajasthan. Eventually he got to Bombay. Now, this part of the story was told to me by Kishu Mirchandani, who lived in the same house. He was a child in that house where there was a whole lot of these so-called refugees. And there must have been like 30, 40 people, only one loo, and everybody sleeping on the floor. But Kundanani, everybody knew he is going to start his own college again. And he would leave in the morning, he would be looking for places, he would looking for funding, looking for various support. On Sundays, he would sit and write postcards. He would write a bunch of postcards every Sunday. Who was he writing to? He was writing to his former colleagues in National College, Hyderabad, Sindh. And they were all over the place because they were refugees like him. And there's somebody in Bhopal, and there's somebody in Ajmer, and there's somebody in Coimbatore, and of course, all over. And he was writing to tell them that I'm going to start National College. You do what you're doing. You may be helping your uncle in his shop, you may be frying tikkis, you may be giving tuitions, whatever. You have to feed your family and you do that, but just know this. I'm starting National College. You will have your job back. You will have your students back. And he did.
They
Wow.
they financed him, or they came to
I
work
love
in the
this
school.
story. No, they came to work. Who financed him? Was the Sindhwarkis. Obviously, they had the money. And there was Hochand Advani, who was one of his supporters. He was a lawyer from Hyderabad, Sindh. And his biggest clients were the Bhaibans. So all he had to do was pass the hat around, and they had, why
Okay.
is it called Kishan Chand Chalaram? Why is it called KC College? Kishan Chand Chalaram College.
Yeah, KC,
And all the colleges
named after the sponsors.
were funded. That's how the Amils and the Bhaibans supported each other. But I have to tell you also that I love National College because that's where my parents met.
Oh,
So if it
Oh,
hadn't been for old Kundanani, I wouldn't have been here.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. Back.
Go ahead,
no,
Amita.
I
No, I'm just saying,
no, I
love marriage way back when
Yes. Yeah, it's
I
they
great.
were,
I
my
I actually
parents
wanted
were
to
the
ask you,
pioneers.
Saz. I'm
Yeah,
Sindhi. I married a Sindhi. Um, Sabrina is Sindhi. She didn't
well
marry a
done.
Sindhi. Not to put anybody on a spot.
Okay.
My point is, the question is, how important do you think it is to marry within your community, love versus arranged marriage? Since you brought up now your parents meeting, tell us your
Parents,
thoughts on
yeah.
marriage and today's society where many of our friends are not married and
Yeah,
seem to be happier
yeah,
than
yeah,
most
yeah.
married people.
Yeah, yeah. I think we should be talking not about marriage, which is a legal institution, but about having a partner, because the partner could be it could doesn't really have to be a person of your community. It doesn't even have to be a person of the opposite gender. It could be anyone. It just has to be somebody who you get along with and who you are committed to and who you want to spend your life with. And that's one of the lovely things about life is having a partner. So it just has to be somebody who you're happy with. I think and I've seen this, I attended the Sindhi Sammelan one year in California, and I realized that so many young people come because they're looking for partners. And I can totally relate to that because when you're out in the world and you are surrounded by people who are so many different communities, there is a certain familiarity, a certain sense of security in marrying somebody whose family is similar to your family, at least in some ways. So there's that advantage. But today's world, finding a partner is so difficult, so difficult. This book, which I've just finished writing, which is your family's history, the history of one side of your family. There
Yes,
are
correct.
people there who the man looks at the photo and he says, I want to marry her.
That's his parents probably,
No,
right? Didn't your
no,
parents meet via
no.
our
I know some of
I
them
don't think
did
so. I think
that.
my
I know
parents.
some of them did
I don't
that.
think my dad
Maybe
met my
not your
wife.
parents.
My dad didn't meet the wife until he got married.
Okay, what I was told was Amitu's parents, obviously the families knew each other
Yeah,
already, but they just the photos were exchanged and
photos.
they said
Yeah,
yes. That's what
yeah,
you have to.
You know what, Sabrina, you
yeah.
might be right. I'll ask my mom after she watches the episode.
Yeah, I remember my
Good.
parents
Yeah,
telling me that story of Amitu's parents when I was younger, and I was like, "What? I would never do that." But now I
yeah,
see how that
So I owe my life to
works.
yeah.
photography.
And you know what?
Yes, to the
Yeah, the
arts.
way the way that I owe my life to old Kundanani. But yeah, what I was saying is that it's also these guys. They saw the photo, they married the woman, they were happy together for 50 years,
Hmm.
and more. So it's hard to
Yeah.
put any.
Saz, do
It's like
you
if
think?
you're a Hindu, you talk about karma. You say, yeah, that was their karma. This is our
Yeah.
karma. Whatever. Yeah.
Do you think I've heard so many times throughout my life, like we're a dying culture, quote unquote, a dying culture. Are we a dying culture?
Well, it depends on if you look at the wealth of culture that Sindhis actually came from, the philosophy and poetry, the music,
Hmm.
uh, and the dance. I think it's still there. I think it should be revived, and there's
Yeah.
no reason why it won't be, because now we are past that struggle. We're past that awful phase, that phase the community went through of just being heroic and rebuilding. So now it's time to reach back and bring
Yeah.
some of those treasures back into our lives.
I'm glad you told me about the arts because I want to learn more
Yeah.
about that now.
Yeah, and it's still, to an extent, still alive in
Hmm.
Pakistan, in Sindh.
Hmm.
And there are people all around the world, because the Sindhi diaspora is all around the world. There
Yes.
are, and people just, spontaneously start doing things self driven, like me, collecting stories without any funding, just doing it from
Passion,
my, supporting myself.
passion.
Yeah.
Are there any Sindhi
So for
celebrities?
me, the story,
Are there any Sindhi famous
yeah,
people that we know of?
lots of
Sabrina,
famous
do you know any
people.
Sindhi celebrities? I know none.
Um,
Like role models for future generations. Can you name a few?
Isn't that guy Ranveer? What's his
The
name?
actor,
There's an actor. As an actor, he's Hindi. I think
Ranveer
he's
Singh.
Hindi, but I think so.
Okay,
Yeah,
so one Bollywood
is
guy.
he?
Check.
He is. Yeah. No. There are lots and lots in the Hindi movies. Lots of them, and so many who are half Sindhi, like Karan Johar.
Oh yeah, Karan. I
Yeah,
actually
so many.
I went to Karan's
Yeah.
house once. One of Karan's cousin is Sid Mathur, who was a guest in a previous episode, and Sid's best friend is Gotham, a childhood friend of mine. And I was in Bombay once. Was it Bandra or Car? I was in that area, and Gotham said, "Let's go to a friend's house." And I walked in, and I thought of my grandmother, because my grandmother used to call her 10 friends, and they used to sit on this very table that I'm at right now, and they'd play rummy, right? And I walked into this guy's
Yeah.
house. I didn't know, like, I'm not a celebrity, a Bollywood. I didn't know
Yeah.
Karan Johar
Yeah.
like back then.
Yeah. I don't watch
And
movies.
I
Yeah.
walked in, and this auntie started talking to me in Sindhi, and Gotham said, my dost, mera dost Sindhi hai, blah blah blah. So it was just so funny. Now I know who Karan Johar is and how important he is in the world of cinema and India. And back then, I just thought, what a lovely woman, and she just reminded me of my grandmother, who's no longer with us, but you know, it was always fun
Yeah.
growing up with her. Saz, we ask our guests one question, which is
Now you're making me
no,
nervous.
it's a simple question. It's a simple question
Yeah.
because everyone's answer is so different and unique. So, what is success mean to you, and has success and the definition of success evolved over the decades?
What a lovely question. Success. I think success is being at peace, being loving yourself, and being happy with what you have. I think success is working with whatever you have and making the best of it, using all your resources to the optimum. To me, that is success. Success is when you understand your priorities and quick diversion. When I started doing the Sindhi, collecting Sindhi stories, my biggest motivation was to share the Sindhi story with everyone so that there will be a good quality body of work about Sindhis, real stories, not just Sindhi and the snake, not just, oh, they wear diamonds. So now I have another, even harder challenge, which is tell Sindhis money is not everything. So, because a lot of Sindhis really think money is everything. And I think understanding your priorities. Of course, money is important, but health is important, relationships are important, friends are important, your physical environment is important. Spiritual growth is important. There are other things, and I think success is about balancing those things and giving focus at different times of your life. When you have little children, you have to put other things aside and just, if you really want to be a good parent, just focus on them. I'm very proud of myself that I could do that. My biggest career achievement is when the school bus came home, I was always there.
Yeah,
And,
that's
you
balance.
know, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that. And the other is that I was with my parents. I got a chance to look after my parents. They both were kind enough to give me their final blessing and died in my presence. So for me, those were the biggest achievements in my life, which nothing ever can match.
That's fantastic.
Sabrina, this, what you just
Thank you,
heard,
Sabrina.
is my best answer to date out of the 26, 27 guests we've had. Yeah, I've
Oh,
not said it
oh,
before. This is the best
He's
definition.
never said
This
this.
is the best definition of what success means to
oh.
me. The way she said it was beautiful, and I really like it. Hit home. It hit home. Every word she said hit home. I don't know if it's because you're Sindhi as well, but the way you said it,
Well,
I'm going to replay it to
only
my wife
half
every night before she
Sindhi. I mean,
sleeps.
But you know
so
what,
long
Amitu?
as it's not both of you being the parent, right? You're not just telling her you'll be there when the school bus comes home.
Yeah, but her answer is
Yeah,
it was balance and focusing on every aspect of your life. That's my husband and I have a wellness startup called the Five Spheres of Fit and finding balance in every part of your life. And
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. It's not just money. Money can fix,
Yeah, a
challenges
lot,
and
a
obstacles.
lot. Yeah,
But what
yeah,
about health? What about
yeah,
happiness? What about, education, all of that?
yeah,
So
yeah.
you did answer that beautifully. And for Amitu to say that,
I
Thank you
I
so
think
much.
yeah.
Sabrina
Thank
just likes
you.
to plug her podcast and her new business. We should charge her. Should charge her for this. Okay, Saz. Now I'm excited for the
Uh,
rapid fire. Over here, we're going to ask you some questions.
gosh,
Yeah,
more.
we're
Fun
going to ask you
questions,
some
fun, quick
quick questions.
questions.
We'd appreciate quick answers. To be respectful on the time as well. I'll start, Sabrina. Okay.
Sure, go for
Okay.
it.
Other than writing and art, what is your favorite hobby slash passion that we don't know about?
I love to eat. I love to eat. I love to travel. I've traveled a lot. And what else? I love spending time with people. I enjoy conversation. That's it.
Love it. Okay. A book that you like to recommend or gift to others, but not one that you've written.
Uh, okay. There are quite a few. In the sin space, I like to give a book by which is translated by Rita Kothari. It's called Unbordered Memories, and it's translations of Sindhi Partition stories. There's another book which is completely different, which I love giving as a gift. It's called On 2 Feet and Wings by Abbas Kazaruni. He's an Iranian. He lives in the US, but when he was 10 years old, he had to leave Iran alone. And it's a true story of how he made it. He's a lawyer and he lives in the US now. He grew up in the UK. I mean, when he was 10. Anyway, that's one of my favorite books to give as a gift.
Oh,
Great.
great.
Okay.
Great.
If you could be any fictional character for a day, who would you choose?
Darcy, the man in Pride and Prejudice.
Oh, that's
I
a
was not
great
expecting that
answer.
one, Sabrina. I was not expecting that one,
Me
but I like
neither.
it.
I think that's such a great
I like it.
answer.
Sabrina?
I'm going to switch this up. So you said one of your hobbies is eating. If you had to have your last meal, what would it be?
She's not that old, Sabrina.
Oh,
I already know
last
mine.
meal.
All right, Sabrina, tell us
My
yours.
last meal. Yeah,
Yeah,
tell
tell us
us yours.
yours.
That
You
might give me a hint.
you
Since
guys,
you.
it's going to be A delicious gluten-free pizza with a glass of Pinot Grigio.
Sounds boring, but
Pizza
Nice.
and wine, it's my favorite.
So this is difficult for me. I'm a vegetarian. I love salads, so I think I would go for a salad with a lot of iceberg lettuce and some a mixture of fruit and fresh vegetables and a honey mustard dressing and lots of nuts. I think that would be my last meal. Maybe
Wow.
with some bread because I like I'm like kind of I love bread. Yeah, so I
Okay.
might just add some soft, unhealthy bread rolls.
Yeah.
okay. If you could travel back in time and live in any era, which decade or which period would you like to be part of?
I the thing that I like to avoid is housework. So any time in when I wouldn't have had to do
So the future.
housework, I would be okay with
I was gonna
that.
say, when would that
No,
be?
wait, Sabrina.
Oh, you have
Tesla's
you have to
coming up
live
with
in India,
robots.
Sabrina.
Yes.
So,
So it has to
so
be
the
the
era is
future.
2060.
The future. Yeah.
Sabrina,
Okay. What is one bucket list item you would like to fulfill this year?
2024.
Yes.
Myself, I don't really have anything left pending. I'm just like, mm, I've written all the books I want to write, and
So
you
you're
know,
content. No bucket list.
I'm
I love it.
yeah, I
You're
don't have
fulfilled.
anything left. I'm happy, I face whatever comes. You never know, like, you come to a certain age, you don't know what's in store for you. So I'm looking forward to meeting the challenges of the future. That's all I can say.
I
Nice one.
love that.
Saz, last question. How would you like to be remembered? Your legacy in a few words.
Wow, that's so deep.
We like to think with that kind of podcast.
Uh, yeah, how I would like to be remembered is as a sincere person. I think that's what I think I would like to be remembered as. That's what I see myself as. I see myself as sincere, and I don't think I need to be remembered as anything else. I think sincerity is, yeah.
That's
Beautiful.
beautiful. Yeah, your answers have been sincere throughout,
Yeah.
so I could see that.
Thank you, thank
Saz,
you. I try.
do you want if someone wants to reach out to you, do you want to leave Instagram or website or any like since Sabrina plugs
Yeah,
all the
so
time?
I
Do you want to?
have, thank you so much. I have, my generation is not that great with Instagram. So my first, uh, I have this thing called Sindhi Tapestry, which got hacked. And that was very traumatic. And then I said to myself, oh, well, here we go. We have to start from scratch all over again. All the Sindhis did it. So let me do it. And I set up another one called Sindhi.tapestry. And it's just kind of limping along because I haven't given it the same energy that I did
So it's a
before.
website
But
or
yeah,
is it a
please,
podcast? What is it?
it's an Instagram handle called
Cindy
Cindy.tapestry.
Tapestry on
Okay.
Instagram. Great. Saz, this has been a real honor. Thank you for sharing some.
My honor was
No,
mine.
honestly, sharing the insight on what happened back in the history. We apologize if some of the questions were ignorant, especially mine, with regards to the
No, no, no,
partition.
not at
It's
all.
something
No, 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 not, there was no
it's
ignorance
something we
there.
really care deeply about, know too little about, and we feel like your words of wisdom and your stories should be shared, not just with Sindhis, not just with
Yeah.
Indians, with people around the world, just like we know about the Holocaust, just like we're seeing today what's happening in Israel and Palestinian, and Ukraine and Russia and Crimea. It's still sad what's happening. The violence is still there. I still don't understand it, and I hope it all goes
Yeah.
away as soon as possible. Thank you very much, Saz.
Thank you. Thanks, Sabrina. Thank you, Amit.
Thank you. And if anyone would like to order, I ordered it on
Should we put
Amazon.
the link on the?
Or if there's anyone
We'll put
else.
the link on the show notes.
Yes, we'll put the link on the show notes, and it is beautifully written. And like you said, it's not just for Indians. It's, if anyone wants to learn about this history, it's very important. So thank you for being here with us. I mean, I loved hearing all your stories.
Thank you so much.
Everyone, this has been another episode of Indian Explorers, and we hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe and share it with others. Thank you, everyone.